I can hear you.
Does that work? Oh,
yes.
Perfect.
Yes. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me and come on the show.
Thank you. This is so fun.
Yeah. So for our audience, tell us a little bit about yourself. I'm really eager to get into the health and nutrition side of things, but tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, my name's Becca, and I have been doing jujitsu for a little over 4 years. I compete as much as possible, but I have 2 kids, and I run a business, and my husband runs a business, so we are very, very busy. And I run a nutrition and training company specifically towards, either athletes who are actively competing or have been athletes. So, I've been in your shoes, whether you're a parent who is very busy or, working, trying to make it fit in, or you're an active competitor. And I've been both and in both.
About to say, just trying to find time as a parent, as a mother, regardless, to find time for nutrition, to find time for training. That's its own battle for sure. And then you add in the competitive side of it. Geez, it's tough.
It's fun. It's what is life without a little chaos?
Indeed. So I know you're very active in the health and nutrition and the training, the physical training side of things as well. And I guess what came first? Was the jiu-jitsu the aspect that came first for you, or was the health and nutrition that came first for you?
So the fitness or the nutrition and fitness side was absolutely, that came first. I swam and I golfed in college. And after I graduated, I ended up getting into powerlifting because if you've ever played a sport, like swimming, rowing, wrestling, a lot of people don't want to touch that specific thing afterwards. You're kind of burnt out. So I switched to powerlifting. And during that whole time, I was a personal trainer in person, working at different gyms, going to people's houses, things like that. And I started to realize that there was such a need for the nutrition and lifestyle portion of things. Mm-hmm. And that's, you see these clients, they come in every single week, or you touch base with them every single week. And, they're getting stronger. All of that's great, but they're not making any progress in terms of, health, or in terms of, a lot of people are looking to lose weight, right?
Right.
And when you see them time in and time out, you can only control 1 hour of that time. Mm-hmm. But if you start to look at their nutrition or how they're sleeping, are they, what do their weekends look like? All of those sorts of things, that plays a really big part in it. Mm-hmm. And a couple of years ago, I started jujitsu and I started loving it. And I started competing, looking for information, how to cut weight appropriately, because I didn't wrestle, I didn't play a sport, needing to play, cut any weight. Weight did not matter.
Right.
And there wasn't a lot of information out there. People didn't really guide you on how to, do those things. Mm-hmm. So I started, working on that for myself. And I was already a trainer. I was already a nutritionist. So I started really breaking it down as to, okay, what's going to actually work, right? Mm-hmm. Looking at more logical things like, okay, well, sleep doesn't change regardless of the sport you play, digestion, those sorts of things. Those are all incredibly important to your performance. So it kind of just evolved.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Oh, no, that's fine.
But yeah, so that's how it kind of became more into jujitsu. And then my husband ended up opening up a gym, and he does the Muay Thai and MMA portion of things. Mm-hmm. And, really breaking it down, he has fighters who end up needing to cut weight, those sorts of things. It really just solidified my viewpoint on, nutrition for athletes in this space. Mm-hmm. There's not a lot of people helping you in this space because, again, weight cuts, people training twice a day, those sorts of things. It's very, very different than CrossFit or mm-hmm. normal sports.
Right. Yeah. About to say, because I can imagine, and I know from talking to people who've done MMA in the past, the weight cutting is so different and downright dangerous in MMA. And, you can't exactly weight cut like you would in MMA before an IBJJF match. You weigh in, you go. So.
And that's a huge difference that people don't realize, something like a competition or a tournament where you can weigh in the night before. You have a lot more flexibility with those sorts of things than IBJJF, where you're weighing in, getting on the mats. If you think you're going to perform well and, maybe get some upwards sometimes of 7-8 matches after cutting weight, you might as well just go sit down.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's very different, but it's such a fun challenge, honestly.
Mm-hmm. And that's a question I've always kind of wondered is, in your opinion, and, different people say different things. What would be for jiu-jitsu? What does that weight cutting process look like? And what would be, for those who are serious competitors, the safe amount to cut? Because I've seen people cut anywhere from 5 pounds, which doesn't seem bad, to people trying to drop 20 pounds. So.
And like you said, there's a huge difference between MMA the night before and your ability to recuperate, lost fluids. That takes up, sometimes 2, 3, 4 days to get, the replenishing of fluids. For females, we're going to have a lot more, variability than males just because of our cycle and our ability to actually cut weight. So, depending on your stature, depending on your, there's girls who are 6 foot something versus someone who's, 5. My friend Amanda, she's 5 foot. Mm-hmm. Amanda, for example, she can safely cut like 3-ish, 4 pounds with water weight. Whereas someone, I have a client who's closer to 6 feet. She can cut 7, 8, 9 pounds. And it's really going to vary on your body fat, what your carb intake looks like, in your day to day, because a lot of the weight cut, if it's within a normal range, right? I say like people say from 1 to 3% of your overall weight is a safe water cut. It's going to depend on how, what your body responds to. And typically what I like to do with clients is we'll do a test drive. That way we start to see, okay, great. We're not trying to cut weight that's not actually there. Or we're not trying to cut into your performance. So it really comes back and forth, to the individual. So I know that's not like a fun answer. It's not a specific answer, but it really does break it down into, especially for females, like where you are in your cycle, how much water you typically tend to retain, because I'm sure, I don't know if you've noticed this or listeners have noticed this, but if you are at a certain point in your cycle throughout the month, you could weigh anywhere, from 2 to 5 pounds more and fluctuate so easily. So that plays a huge part into that. Same thing with travel. If you're traveling for jiu-jitsu, working on digestion and making sure that, we're eating foods that are easily digestible, you're getting enough fluids in, and doing an appropriate water cut is going to be key here.
Because about to say, the only experience I really have with weight cutting is I used to do some NPC competitions, and you're dead basically on that stage. There is no water. And so that was something I had to make the adjustment before competitions of, I can't do a bodybuilding water cut. So
no, very different. And that's, I've seen girls before bodybuilding competitions, they'll take a shot so that they're more vascular before like getting on the stage.
Yeah.
Whereas if in a tournament for jiu-jitsu, I would not recommend.
No. But
that's aesthetics versus performance, though.
Exactly. It's just totally different ways of training for sure. And that's my background in the training and, getting coached. And so it's helped with the strength, but the nutrition, getting that dialed in, it is still different approaches.
Absolutely. And what leans you out might not be ideal for performance. Whereas, for the stage, it is a completely different sport, bodybuilding versus, jiu-jitsu or grappling, things. And they're both beautiful in different ways, but they're definitely, you need a different approach.
Absolutely. So I am just curious, when it comes to nutrition and your clients, what has been the biggest insight you have seen in crafting plans, crafting approaches to make sure your clients are at the top of the field, or even in your own personal experience?
I love that question. So every single client you have to take an individual approach to. What my schedule looks like is going to look different than yours versus, Susan's, and everybody's schedule looks different. You also have to take a look at their goals and, what's practical for their schedule. If someone's working shift work, 12-hour shifts, or they're doing rotational shifts, that your eating style is going to look so different than someone who works 9 to 5, or someone who's a stay-at-home, parent, or works from home even. So being able to, take a realistic approach to your schedule, your goals, and, really develop a strategy that works for you is going to be the biggest thing. People try to lift Monday through Friday, but if that doesn't work with your schedule, feeling guilty for not getting those lifts in is just, when it's not practical, is not going to keep it sustainable. You're not going to be able to reach those goals long term, and you're going to feel, a sense of guilt, or give up, or just say, you know what, I'll do it tomorrow. So finding something that works for you has been, and for every single client has been incredible. So every single week, we take a look at our schedules and say, okay, do we have any date nights? Do we have any meetings? Do we have, what does our work schedule look like? And we start to break it down. Okay, hey, training looks like this week. We need to definitely meal prep twice this week because we have a busy schedule, Monday through Wednesday. Thursday we have off. So definitely, throw something in the crock pot. Let's make it easy, get us through the weekend, and really try to, optimize that week by week. And there's going to be weeks when things don't go to plan. Can we learn from those weeks when things don't go to plan? So it's constantly, using the strategies, but making sure that it works for your life, because, I don't know about you, but my life is a little chaotic. So making sure that it goes, as the best to plan ensures that you can constantly move forward.
Making it more adaptable instead of just, you have to do it this way.
Exactly. Rigidity has its time and its place, but if you can't be flexible, it won't work.
Right. Yeah, no, for sure. I think sometimes when I've talked to people who are interested in doing nutrition and getting a plan, that kind of stuff, they feel like it has to be X, Y, Z. And if they don't do X, Y, Z, well, I might as well give up,
Yes. And I'm sure with bodybuilding, that was something, okay, you're going to eat 6 ounces of grilled chicken or plain chicken. And, I like to teach clients how to fish. I don't want to just give them the fish. And, I want you to learn, okay, listen, if you're on vacation, let's do a handful of rice, right? Or let's do about 6 ounces. By this point, what 6 ounces of, meat looks like. I don't care if it's chicken. I don't care if it's fish, really learning the fundamentals and the foundations of nutrition and learning how to do it for yourself, whether you're meticulous about tracking, because you have something coming up, or we have the flexibility to be more intuitive. There's, phases of life for each part.
Indeed. And I think so often people are looking for those magic, I don't want to say magic diets, but it kind of seems like they're thinking that if I do the carnivore diet, or if I do whatever diet it may be, that's going to fix everything, when, maybe not. It may be you do well on keto, or you do well on paleo or full vegetarian. But I think so many people put stock in these, that's the magic formula, when it may work or not work for you.
Right. And that's, I think with my clients, I like to create go-tos for breakfast and especially lunches, because most of us are just kind of busy. It's like, listen, if you want to do eggs for breakfast, great. Let's keep that as our go-to. Let's do one portion of carbs here. And if you want to switch it from sourdough bread or oatmeal, it's not a big deal here, but allow yourself to say, you know what, if I can make it easier by creating, listen, this week I'm going to have this, and keep it chill. And you say, I like smoothies, for example, for breakfast. That's something that I've had for the last 3 years. I will switch up the protein flavor. I'll switch up the fruit. I'll switch up, like the nut butter, whatever, but it stays similar so that I don't have to think about it. That is taken off of my plate. Obviously, you're going to have weeks or weekends, where you end up indulging and doing other things. But for the most part, if you have something, okay, great. I'm busy in the morning. I can't be spending hours in the kitchen trying to create this. Let's have this. And that has been incredibly effective. No matter what time of day works best for you. Some people have the time to cook breakfast, but dinner's chaotic. So they just say, okay, cool. We're doing this for dinner and I'm done,
Oh yeah, no, I know. Cause I'm a teacher. And so I have to meal prep, like I have to have the little fridge and so have all my little lunches, and I eat breakfast on the drive to work. And I think that's a really good insight, is that you have to have that flexibility that you're talking about. Have your go-tos. I like that phrasing, have your go-to, but if you need to go off the path, you can. So.
Exactly. And, the one benefit of us not being aesthetic athletes is we can kind of adjust some things, especially if we're not we're not gearing up for a weight cut for competition. Mm-hmm. A lot of times for teachers, especially, between school being out and then going to evening practice, what I'll generally recommend, I'm like, have a sandwich. And I know that goes against what everybody, thinks in nutrition and dieting and things like that. Mm-hmm. But if you could put a good piece of bread, 2 pieces of bread with some meat on there, or even a PB&J pre-training, that's going to get you through training. And you're not going to feel like you're going to eat the entire fridge when you come home, or the snack cabinet. Like it'll get you through training, and it'll get you, you're going to have enough energy to get you through your evening chaos without, steering right for the Oreos.
Right. And that, you actually bring up a good point with that pre-training snack. What's your opinion on the importance of nutrition timing for performance and training?
So it's incredibly important, but I will say, as long as you're someone who's eating regularly, it matters less. But once we get to the point where you have your nutrition down, it makes a really big impact on your recovery. It makes a really big impact on your performance. I don't know if you've ever gone to train or to the gym after a long day of work and you forgot to bring anything and you don't have time before you go to train. By an hour in, by the time you go to roll, you feel starving. You feel like your energy's gone, whereas if you had even, a 200 calorie snack, right? Rice cakes with some peanut butter and honey, or a sandwich or something like that, even half of one, your energy is going to be so much higher. And over the course of, a couple of weeks, a couple of months, even a year, getting those extra couple of rolls in, being able to go that much more, that really compounds over, a few months and a year and years. So it does make a really big difference in the long run, where it may not make a difference, here and there. But if you're someone who's habitually underperforming due to nutrition, that's going to have a big impact on your ability to, perform at your highest level. You're leaving performance on the table with that.
Yeah, for sure. And I think so often, when I've talked to, males and females, like, oh, I'm rolling up. I can, I burn all this stuff off, but, it's the nutritional quality. Is that something you struggle with, getting people to understand nutritional quality? But,
I think the big thing, what is very interesting is within this space, I have found that a lot of people are generally healthy. Mm-hmm. Most people do not get enough protein in their diet, mm-hmm. or they will end up fasting until 12, 1, 2 o'clock, going in, but really not eating enough carbs. And mm-hmm. that's where I start to see quality, they start to either binge in the evenings because they're so hungry after training, they didn't eat throughout the day, and less of a quality issue, because I think people really are trying, people try their best, mm-hmm. There's going to be holidays and there's going to be summertime where things are a little bit, less fun. Mm-hmm. But I think for the most part, people do try their best. So I think it's less of I like to get to quality after we've nailed down, nutrition timing, making sure there's no question about, you're getting enough sleep. digestion is on point. Like when we start to talk about quality, we talk about, okay, well, if your digestion sucks, then we need to start looking, okay, listen, dairy, you're having it every single meal, you're feeling bloated, you're feeling, we're having some sort of reaction to that. That's when I really start to harp on quality, because your body is having adverse effects and it's very obvious, if that makes sense.
No, absolutely. I think that comes with trial and error too, that you got to listen to your body.
Yes.
And I think that's something I've been struggling with is I am now allergic to all mushrooms. I loved portobello, loved it, but I break out in hives. So it's a bad idea. And so that's just something I've been struggling with, is that things I wasn't allergic to, now that I've gotten a little bit older, like, it's late onset allergies. And so you've got to learn to listen to your body. And I think some people don't do that enough.
No, and that's when it's usually, and I don't mean to just, say this, but it's generally men that don't care. Like my male clients, they're like, oh, well, it's fine. I'm like, you feel like crap and your body had a reaction. You gained 6 pounds of water weight overnight from having that. There's clearly a reaction, and it's not always, right? Like there's definitely, but women are very in tune with their bodies, very, pretty normally. Men, I've noticed they tend to just be like, yeah, it's fine. It is what it is.
Oh, for sure. I know. We just got back, my husband and I, on our anniversary trip. And I trained so much on the trip that I've never burned. Like I wear a heart strap and all this kind of stuff. And one day I burned over 3,500 calories just from the intensity of the training. And I probably ate 5 or 6 pints of ice cream. Like it was ridiculous. But, I actually lost weight on the trip because I've been training so much. And then my husband, we get home, oh, let's go get ice cream. Well, let's go get this. It's like, he's still dropping weight. And it's like, man, I can't do all this.
That was vacation. Okay. We're at home. Okay.
Yes. And so
movement has changed.
Yes. It's fascinating. Just the differences in nutrition with males and females, what, guys can just seemingly drop the weight so fast just because of the hormone differences versus females. And I guess this is transitioning now into a question about strength training. I know more women are embracing the gym. I see more women lifting in the gym. Some I'm seeing lift, actual legitimate weights and not just the little 1 pound pink dumbbells. Have you seen an increased interest in your general clients? Maybe not necessarily just the jujitsu and the strength aspect, and not being afraid, oh, I don't want to look like a She-Hulk or something.
Absolutely. And that's something that I find to be it's so inspiring to be able to see women go from, feeling, oh, I don't want to become She-Hulk, to realizing it's very difficult, if not at all possible, to look like She-Hulk without, extracurricular items.
A little bit of sauce.
Yeah, exactly. So I've noticed a huge uptick in that over the past couple of years. I think COVID actually really helped people get in touch with their need to feel healthier and feel strong. I've even noticed an uptick in the older clientele. They're trying to, add strength training to their regime. And it's incredible to see, and I see it more and more on my Instagram and TikTok. There's a ton of older women that are lifting heavy. I'm like, yes, this is a goal. I mean, we might be broken by that point, from jujitsu, but I love it. It's so inspiring. So I've definitely noticed an uptick in it, and it's beautiful. We deserve to feel, strong, confident, move that couch if we want to. Yes,
for sure. And I know I've talked to my parents and I've talked to my grandparents, and it seems like I have 2 living grandmothers. One, she's in a home. She's got early stage dementia. And then I have another one who still lives on her own at her house, does yard work just about every day. And the biggest difference in their quality of life has been how physically active and moving they've been. And I think and I try to impress on my mother, Pilates is great, but you need to be lifting some weights too. That's going to help you. So I don't know. I love strength training. And I wish, I hope that continues in the community, older and younger as well.
Absolutely. And I mean, when I go to the gym, I'm now seeing teenage kids at the gym just lifting, lifting, where I went to my gym in high school and I was not only the only teenager, but like one of the only females that weren't on just the cardio machines or just the spin, classes. So it's a beautiful thing to see.
And I think, women, if they understand like, oh, I want to be skinny. Well, if you have more muscle, you're raising your base metabolic rate. That actually helps you get skinny, so.
It's wonderful.
Yeah.
It is. It's just so like, I wish I have two boys and they grew up in the gym. Sometimes it would be nice, if I had a little girl and be like, listen, we're going to the gym. We're going to kick butt. It's going to be fun. But it's so wonderful. I think it's a non-negotiable at this point for, to be a healthy person, just to go. You don't have to go and lift extra heavy, but, put some work in once, twice, 3 times a week. For 45 minutes, you can get it done. Promise.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I know before I even came on, before our podcast episode today, I was actually lifting. So it was leg day for me. Yeah, there you go. Yes. And so and it's just so important, not just for, aesthetics, but then it also actively helps rebuild bone. And if you're, I think it's more common in Caucasian and Asian women, osteoporosis, that if you're just lifting a little bit of weight, you're going to help build your bones back,
Absolutely. And that's something I just talked to my mother-in-law about that because she was just doing yoga and just swimming, which is incredible.
Oh, yes.
I'm like, Karen, we have to add in once or twice a week of weight training. And the muscle that she's been able to grow is just, it's, I love it. I just love it. But it's so good, against osteoporosis. We do everything else right. Why can't we add in a little bit of strength training there,
Absolutely. Absolutely. And this is now pivoting back into jujitsu. I know obviously again, the bodybuilding and the powerlifting looks a little bit different from possibly the lifting for jiu-jitsu. What exercises have you found produce the greatest return on investment, I should say?
So I have noticed that it's, different than bodybuilding and powerlifting. There are similar movements that are going to be incredibly effective, but they're, very similar. So instead of a regular back squat, adding in a Zercher squat where it's, it's coming from your elbows and you're kind of if you were to lift somebody up or hold somebody, if they jumped guard, you're basically doing the same thing in that squat. And the stronger you can do, the more you can do with that, the more effective it's going to be. And then, pressing from the ground and certain movements are more of tweaks, but there's, you're going to need a bench. You're going to need a press. You're going to need a squat. You're going to need a hinge, which is a deadlift. I love single leg work, especially for, for our more athletic people, especially for wrestling. That's going to be incredibly effective. And rotational work. So, no matter the sport that you're playing, or if you're just trying to be healthier, all of those are going to be crucial to, moving the needle forward. But for jiu-jitsu athletes in particular, there's going to be little tweaks to it that are going to be more effective, like the Zercher, or I'll do floor press from the ground. If you're, trying to get somebody off of you, that's going to be pretty similar. And then adding some conditioning in as well.
Right. I know some people do that Metcon stuff,
That's there's a lot of, so it depends on the modality. And like I said, there's going to be perfect scenarios, but as adults who work, that's not going to always present itself. So a lot of times, if a client doesn't have gym access, I'll say, listen, let's get a sandbag. There's so much you can do with a sandbag. You can gas yourself out in 20 minutes more than you could at a regular gym. So it's really about finding that effective dose for you and what's practical for you. You know, that's, you went to the gym today, or you went to the gym, or did you do it at your house?
Yeah. I have a gym at the house too. I saved up. Yeah. So
perfect. I didn't have time today. So I said, all right, I'm going to go out and I'm going to do 25 minutes in my driveway. And I used the sandbag and I was gassed. And it's effective. It's no different than trying to toss somebody from wrestling.
Jeez. Yeah. No, I know. I also will sometimes I'll do a modified ruck with the sandbag. It's like, geez, that kills me every time. So
awful in the best way.
Yes. Yes. I know I was actually weight training with one of my rolling partners. And one exercise I love, just because it helps, I don't know, it helps getting people off of me from, bottom out, which is the hip thrust, and I was going through that, and I'm, able to, as females, we can lift a lot of weight that way safely. And, that's the key right now. My father had 2 spinal fusions, and he says, "You're not deadlifting anymore, are you?" I said, "Well, no, not really, but yeah." So I don't want to be my father when I get older, but anyway, I was going through it, and she said, "Oh, I don't know if I can do that much weight, Sarah. I don't think I can." I said, her name's Sarah as well. I said, "Sarah, you literally have denser bones than I do. You're bigger than I am. There's no reason you couldn't lift more." And then later on, she goes like double my weight. I was lifting like 375. The next day she posted 600 pounds. I'm like, yeah, see, there you go, Sarah.
You're afraid to lift 375.
Yeah, it's like, girl, you're fine. And so I was like, yeah, you're fine. You can do this. So it's kind of fascinating.
Wonderful.
So.
That is, oh my gosh. Hip thrusts that's the hinge, right? It's the reverse of the hinge, but it's so effective. And finding sport specific, right? If someone's new to lifting, it's obviously, you really want to build those normal mechanics of learning how to squat properly versus if you've been in the gym, at this point, you were a bodybuilder prior to doing jujitsu. So, how to lift. Once you have that, then we can get into that more specific work, but you have to build that foundation. Otherwise, and hip thrusts are the exception to that, right? Like you can start hip thrusting at the very beginning, but us talking about the more difficult single leg work or some of the sandbag stuff, if you're a very beginner, it's not bad, but you want to be sure that form is there.
Right. Yeah, I know. And I don't know if you incorporate Olympic lifts into your clients' work, but I am just now starting like on the hang and the hanging clang, because I've never had someone to coach me on it. And I've seen so many people in CrossFit, these things that are supposed to be like a 1 rep max kind of a deal, like, oh my God, so.
And that's something that's incredibly technique based. And, people spend years trying to perfect it and they still don't perfect it. It's very interesting. I love clean and press. My snatch is nowhere near where it should be. I have some shoulder injuries from gymnastics and swimming and stuff, but they are so fun to do. And the more that you can make your sport, and the auxiliaries of your sport fun, I'm all for it, 100% for it. So I love that you're starting to incorporate that as well. I'm trying.
I've got messed up elbow. I've got some messed up stuff. It's just my shoulders can slide in and out of socket. It's gross. And so it's just really and truly finding things that, okay, I can still do this. I've had 2 knee surgeries, not from jujitsu, but at all. It's like, what can I do where I'm not going to break down today?
Exactly. And it's finding that, again, that individuality of what you can do. So maybe a bar doesn't work for you for snatches. Maybe kettlebells do, or maybe you don't do snatches because shoulder, the in and out of sliding of your shoulder is been there, done that. I love that though, that you're able to say, yeah, you know what, modification is not the worst thing if I can do it.
Right. And so I'm just kind of thinking about my younger teammates and training partners. I know that the general rules now I don't know if that's changed, but strength training with like legitimate weight, not until you're 16, I think, or is it earlier now, or is it that so dependent?
I think it depends on the individual's ability to have someone there who is going to choose appropriate form, choose appropriate, weights and those sorts of things. I've seen 7, 8, 9-year-olds doing really well in the gym. Mm-hmm. But again, it comes back to that. Do you want them to burn out early? Do you want them to, mm-hmm. Are you making it fun? At the end of the day, you want them to have some fun, mm-hmm. And, not regret spending all that time in the gym, which most people don't. But I've seen it time in and time out. You don't want kids to despise something that should be healthy. Yeah. So finding that, that middle ground of, listen, we're going to go do strength and conditioning this week. It's really, when they're that age, I love doing more like skills-based work. So mm-hmm. speed and agility, and really focusing on strengthening of your tendons, honestly, because I've seen in other sports, how many ACL, MCL, PCL injuries do you see just from other sports like lacrosse, football, all of those sorts of things happen. Mm-hmm. So the faster you can, work on the power, speed, agility, those sorts of movements, mm-hmm. and improving on those, the gym's going to be there, mm-hmm. It's going to be there. I'm not opposed to kids going to the gym, but again, you need someone who's really there watching over and making sure that it's a safe and fun environment for them without giving up.
Right. Yeah, I know. I'm just thinking to yesterday. It was just a cardio day for me. I was, walking on the treadmill and I saw, this, I guess it was a grandfather and his grandson, I'm thinking. And this, he's probably 8 or something like that, this little boy. And as his grandfather was lifting, he may lift a little bit. It was obvious he was not lifting heavy weight. But then he would sprint around the track and he was just having so much fun. You could tell like he was a little Usain Bolt, just going, and he loved it. Which I thought, man, that's a really great way for those two to bond. I love it.
That's so wonderful. And I'm sure even at your gym, you see, kids on and off the mats and those sorts of things, making it fun for them. So, mm-hmm. I am all for people lifting. I want it to be that balance, Mm-hmm. And I know that's not the exact answer you were looking for, but I love, high schoolers are in there all the time. I would venture to say that anywhere after, let's say like 4th grade is a good starting place. You can get them in, see if they're good, start them with kettlebells and start mm-hmm. them with, movement patterns that are, the basics. They don't mm-hmm. have to be behind a squat rack at this point. They don't have to, make it fun for them, make them want to go lift and use the squat rack and use the barbell. But for now, get them in there, get them excited and learning that it is a non-negotiable for their health. But, mm-hmm. At this point, it's like just developing that habit.
Oh, yeah. And I know, because I teach 11th grade and now I'm also teaching a college class, but my kids, it was fascinating. I teach basically that entire grade, and the football players will talk to me about lifting and how some people, they don't care about the gym. They don't want to lift. They don't want to do nothing. I don't understand, then and those kids or those men, young men, they could throw me across the room. They said, well, I just don't understand. It's like, it's boring. I don't like it. I don't care. It's like, it's just the two different expressions of interest in lifting versus just doing their sport. They think, I can just do, basketball practice and get better. I can just do the football drills and get better. Whereas now we've got one kid, he's able to front squat. Oh, and he had way more in the tank, 495 pounds. I'm like, like they made him stop. They didn't want him to hurt himself, but I watched the video on TikTok. I was like, oh my God. So
you're going places. I don't know where, but you're going places.
Yeah. So it's fascinating to see when the high schoolers on these teams or, college students too, but these kids that are on these teams, if they buy into the strength and conditioning, it pays dividends.
And that's, I think, part of being a coach, part of being a parent is reiterating the overall, not that lifting is a necessary evil, but if you're really trying to be serious about it, it is a part of your training, whether it directly correlates, basketball, you can practice free throws. You can practice, I'm not a basketball person, so I don't know what other things you practice, but, you can do that sort of work. But if you aren't strong enough to, what you do in the gym is going to directly correlate to your capabilities and your abilities out of the gym. If you work on jumping with weight, if you work on heavy squats, you're going to be able to jump so much higher in the grand scheme of things. Oh, yeah. And guess what? That might mean you not getting any offers in or like at the beginning of high school to getting D1 opportunities, bigger opportunities. So it's a non-negotiable and it'll be a non-negotiable for my kids and any athletes that I end up, my younger ones. It'll be like, listen, you got to do something. I don't care what it is, but an hour of your day, 3-4 times a week, we'll find it.
We'll find it. Yeah. And I know for jiu-jitsu, they say, oh, well, strength doesn't really matter. It's like, well, good luck. If you don't strength train and you're going into a competition, they're all strong. So
that's, I was just at an ADCC Open and the girls, I am strong. These girls are incredibly strong, like incredibly strong. So if you're trying to be competitive, it should be a non-negotiable, it should be non-negotiable regardless of your competition status, whether you want to do it or not. But if you are serious about taking it somewhere, it absolutely has to happen.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's because, you have somebody who has strength, and no technique. Yeah. If you've got better technique, you're going to overtake them. But realistically, those aren't the ones signing up for competitions, But, if you've got strength and technique, watch out. That's, yeah.
It changes things.
It really does. And I know I've, in traveling and going to different gyms, I've gone with girls who are, 20 pounds lighter than me, a totally different weight class, but, they may not be as quote unquote strong as me, but they know how to use their strength appropriately. And so it's not like, when I say strength training, I know when you say strength training, I'm not saying you want to be so muscle bound, right? Because if you're muscle bound, you can't move. You can't do the stuff you want to. We have all rolled, with meatheads, and you just got a little bit of pressure and they're tapping out because it's the shoulders are so big or something.
Think of the Americana.
Yes. And so it's fascinating that I don't know. I don't know if is it muscle density versus muscle size or just more muscle fiber activation? Is that kind of what's going on if you're not muscle bound?
So for females, it's going to be a lot. We're much less likely to be muscle bound just because of our nature. Men, it is purely lack of stretching. And for females as well, you definitely need to stretch. And I'm sure, if you don't put any effort into mobility or, stretching or yoga, you're going to notice, over time, your ability to, put your head over your shoulders without kind of having an impingement you're going to notice it. Yeah. So, putting 10, 15 minutes after your lifts, maybe doing 1 or 2 longer sessions a week, it's going to pay dividends. Again, it's the same thing as strength training, it's going to pay dividends so that you stay healthy, your spine stays healthy because, you're only as young as your spine. If you can't move your neck, if you can't move your body, you're going to start to feel like a little old lady, little old man who can't, rotate anymore. And that's no fun.
No, for sure. For sure not. I know, just again, with my dad having surgeries and stuff, it's like, man, we definitely don't want to have that going on. We want to take care of our spines and such. And I know old school, like deadlifting form, you overextended your back. And that's, I think what did him in is that for the longest time, and he still lives, he's 60, 65. And so he still lifts, but it's just one of those things that you can see the evolution of form, what he's done, what I've seen like him show me to do, which is not bad versus what other coaches have told me. It's like, okay, that actually feels a little bit safer. So.
Right. And you're like, oh, I see where this could have made a difference if we had, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But that's good. It's something that you now can take away as a lesson for yourself.
Mm-hmm. So I would love for you to give us a little bit of a rundown about your personal training business, the communities on Facebook, because I would love for more females to get involved.
Absolutely. So on Facebook, it's Off the Mats Performance. And this is a community specifically for people who are training, whether you're competing or not competing. It's really about optimizing, life on and off the mats. What you do off the mats is going to directly correlate to, how you perform on the mats. And, like I said, whether you compete or not, optimizing those things that you're doing off the mats is going to give you more energy. You're going to feel better. You're going to have more time and efficiency to do the things that you want to do, right? You want to be able to hang out with friends late at night instead of, constantly feeling groggy and, or your kids, whatever that is. And you can follow me on Instagram at Becca.Burkhart. And what else we got? I offer one-on-one training and nutrition coaching for anyone who's looking to really, bridge that gap between where they're at right now, really optimize it in a way that makes sense for your life, your schedule, and your goals. Because it is about, I want you to succeed and I want to find that groove that works for you. And that's honestly my passion.
Mm-hmm. Well, it definitely shows in this conversation. It shows that you really do care about, more than just, all right, we want to be killers on the mat, but we want to be, for lack of a better term, killers in life as well. Let me rephrase that.
I know exactly.
Yeah. Let's say that ends you up in jail. So last time I checked. So.
Metaphorical, killing it at life.
There we go. Slaying at life. There we go.
Oh, perfect.
There we go. Oh, goodness. But any other insights you would like to share? I don't want to take up the rest of your day, but anything anything we didn't cover that you would like to shout out?
Let's see. Honestly, the one thing I would say, leaving everybody with a piece of advice is just, take one thing that you can improve today and just get it done, get it out of the way as early as you can and know that it's not going to be perfect and you're going to mess up. But the fact that you're not going to quit is the biggest thing. So you're going to get where you're going. But, just don't quit. Do one little thing. And that is going to compound time after time after time. And in a year, if you continue that mindset, you're going to be so proud of how far you've come.
Good advice. It's also kind of like when we talk about with jiu-jitsu, it's the journey. It's a long journey, but by the end, you've got that black belt, if you stick with it. So
absolutely.
Well, Becca, thank you so much for your time and your insights. I love this conversation. It was great. So
me too. Thank you, Sarah. This is so fun.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you so much and have a great rest of your day.
You too.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.